Welcome to Honest Whispers Preview for Sale. On this video, I'll be previewing Capcom Girls Collection Fighting Cammy, green version. This was released by Yamato back in November 2004. This is a pre-painted PVC statue designed and sculpted by Shiragami Takayuki. The statue is approximately 4 inches tall once everything's been assembled. And due to her pose and her braids, it is approximately 6 inches long. Now I'm going to go over 6 different categories to preview this. And it is a preview because I have this listed for sale. And as you can see, it is still factory sealed. First category is design, which basically covers the look, the concept, and the pose. And as the name says, Fighting Cammy, she has a very nice and dynamic pose. Almost looks like she just finished a kick, or she's about to dodge, block, or even launch a new attack, or even a counter attack. So definitely nice looking pose. Usually there are some statues and figures with their kicking or in a fighting stance, just standing with their fist up, or just a normal stance where she's just standing. So this one definitely has a nice unique pose to it. Again, from the top, just looks really nice the way she's leaning out like that with her legs straight out. As you can see here on the side, you can see different previews or different angles of the pose itself or the statue. And I just love how her hair is just flying in the air like that. So even though it's packaged like this, it actually goes the other way around so that it's actually sticking upwards. So that just adds the dynamic look to it. And to further add the dynamic look, as you can see here, the base, it's kind of a pile of rubble with a broken and bent steel beam on top. And it is unassembled. So when you look again on the preview, she's actually squatting on top of her base. So adds to that dynamic overall look. So I really like the pose, the concept. And as far as the overall design looks, I think it looks great. It does look pretty much Cammy come to life in 3D version. But there are some issues here where I would say the face just looks a bit too rounded. And just the way her mouth is slightly opened, I think she could have had a better looking expression. When you look at this in person or up close, just the way her mouth is like opened in a circle, it kind of reminds me of those baby dolls where it's kind of sculpted so that, or it's designed so that you have like either a pacifier or a milk bottle that could go in her mouth. So just her expression and the look just looks a little off. Now as far as her neck goes, it is kind of hard to see from this, but her neck just seems a bit long. Now on her right side, the way she's has her head tilted, that's a nice length and looks fine. But when you look at this side, it just looks a little bit too long. It's almost, I mean, I hate to say giraffe neck, but it just kind of gives you that impression where it almost stretches out too much. So those are minor complaints. I mean, from a distance, you really can't tell, and I am kind of nitpicking there. So that's why the design, I'm just going to give it a near perfect 9 out of 10. Next category is sculpting, which basically covers the execution, the quality of the molding, and of course the details. And I usually start from top to bottom. The details on the hair is amazing. Pretty much every braid has been sculpted. A lot of the strands, the way it's kind of curving and folding into each other, very nicely detailed, looks very realistic. Now when you look up close, some areas look like it's been kind of cut off. And right here on the side you can see I guess a little bit of molding issue where you could see how where the two plates would have come together. So it looks like they didn't really shave off that part as good. Now as far as her bangs look pretty good. Even the bang or the hair that's attached to her forehead, it's actually pretty well defined. Everything from eyebrows, ears, beret, gloves. Even the gloves are very nicely detailed overall. And I do apologize, you can't see as closely, or you can't see the details as good with two layers of translucent plastic in the way, but definitely overall it does look nice. Now her body proportions looks amazing. Nice muscle definition. That is definitely reminiscent of Cammy. You could even see her abs, but her breasts and her butt is basically the best looking features, or even her legs. Just the way it's so smooth, nicely sculpted, very proportional. It's not over proportioned. And for her size, you get a nice, it's just a nice look overall. So it doesn't look like certain body parts are bigger than it should be, or too small for that matter as well. Even the boots, for a figure this small, it just has a lot of very small intricate details, even though she has a very basic looking costume. So you could see, of course, the preview is gonna always look better than the actual figure, but still you could see the overall details, the way it sticks out. Even the base, when you look at it closely, the rocks or the rubble has some realistic details. Certain areas you get a lot of lines, certain areas it's kind of smooth, so very natural looking, and has that added realism to it. And again, you don't really see much molding issues. You don't see too much lines or anything like that. And that's why for the sculpting, I give it a pretty high score, an 8 out of 10. Next category is colors. Pretty much covers the accuracy of the colors, the quality of the paint, and the quality of the paint application. And overall, the colors are pretty accurate. In my opinion, I just feel the green is a bit dark. It is like a forest green type of green, which still works, but then for me also the skin of her tone is just a little bit too I guess yellowish. I would like it if she had a bit more of a white skin tone, just so that you could see a bit of difference between like her eyebrow and hair. You can see how it just looks a bit too blended. Now it is fine as is, so it's not really a hit or a complaint. But beyond that, it's just the way I feel like the tone of it, certain areas, it just, especially her costume, because if you look at the preview here, even the preview, it comes off on the picture like it's almost, well, I don't want to say black, but almost even like gray, like dark gray looking. So I wish it had a bit more of a green tone color. But of course, off the light, you could definitely see that. Especially the green on her legs. Just seems to, I guess maybe it's the fact that the costume has a bit of a matte finish. But as you can see, and this is probably my favorite part, is that her legs has a nice glossy finish to them. So it's supposed to have that shiny pantyhose look to it. And the green off that just looks a bit more, I guess vibrant would be the better word for it. Because due to the lighting and the shading, just the green on the costume just can come out looking a bit dark. And that's more of a preference rather than an actual complaint or a criticism. Now, as far as the paint application goes, with Yamato, most of their figures and statues are very consistently painted. As you can see with her face, even her scar right there on the cheek, nice straight lines. Even the hair that's molded on top of her forehead, you don't see too much bleeding. Now, if I had to start nitpicking here, I did see a little line right there, that green kind of going onto her upper right chest. So you do see that line right there. And also here on her glove, you could see some red that's painted onto her skin or her forearm, even though the lines are pretty much straight. So those are very minor things you really have to look closely at. And I can't get a good, oh, there it is. You could see there's like an indented line that's supposed to separate her sock, or basically it's the borderline of her sock and her shin. And basically you could see some skin color that's kind of painted over where the sock borderline is, even though the line is straight, which is why it's really hard to see. Now, if there was a complaint I would have to make, is probably the color of the steel beam. Usually you get this, I mean, in real life, if I had to picture a steel beam, I would picture like a dark orange. This one's more like a dark brown. And also the little specks here and there, it's kind of stands out too much. I mean, to me it looks like it's trying to be like rust, but then I don't know, the color just doesn't seem naturalistic. Now on the preview it doesn't look as bad, but again, I would probably, you know, if I was, I guess, the product director or production manager, whatever the title may be that makes the final decision, I would have probably made the steel beam a little bit lighter than this dark brown, just so that it has more of that realistic look to it. But you know, I guess there are some steel beams that come in this color anyway, so other than that, it will definitely I guess kind of have a distinguish, I mean, because she's more of a light color, especially where her fingers, gloves, legs, so definitely you'll see more of that separation, other than her boot, I mean, because it's so black. But beyond that, I guess it's a nice way to keep it in the shadows, but still I would have liked it more with a realistic color, or I guess better term would be a more stereotypical color. So otherwise, really not much to complain about. Even the eyes itself, looks like there's some imprinting done. You don't really get that cross-eyed, googly-eyed look. And even her little badge right here, nice straight lines, no bleeding over the border or anything like that. So for the colors, I give it a pretty high score, a 7 out of 10. Next category is packaging. Basically, this is a window box packaging with a nice big window that goes over the front and the top. I do like the sides, the back. All the preview pictures are different. You don't get the same pictures on each side. And even on the bottom, you get a nice big close-up of Cammy's face. And the best part about this packaging is that there is a art in the inside. The inside of the box, you see a portrait of Cammy. And I think that's really cool and just adds a lot of wow factor to it, which is almost like a subtle thing too, because you may not even notice that it's there until you kind of look closely at it. So that's a huge plus. But if I had to make any kind of complaint, would be the window box. Even though it's nice and helps you see it, the fact that it's a folded plastic right here, it is very fragile, or as you can see, it can get dented and creased easily. So it kind of gets messy over time, especially if you don't take good care of it. Even though the window, I like the way you could see the entire window. Probably a cardboard border right here might make it a little bit more stable, kind of like Kotobukiya's Bishojo line. But still, you wouldn't be able to see that inside art. So it is give and take, and that's why I'm going to give the packaging score a near perfect 9 out of 10. Next category is value, and value pretty much covers the suggested retail price versus the quality, or retail price versus the suggested retail price versus the aftermarket price. And even sometimes aftermarket price versus the quality, because sometimes you're overpaying for something and yet you might not get the same kind of quality. Now for this type of statue, I would just say the scale is like maybe around like 1/8, 1/10. So it is a decent sized statue, but it's still on the smaller end. The original price on this, I think it was around, it's hard for me to say, but when I bought this, I didn't buy it when it was first released. I bought this maybe a few years after it was released, so I ended up buying it for $30. Right now I have this listed for about $40 plus shipping, and I've seen some used one, open ones, that's listed for $40, and then also a new one like mine. I don't know how the condition of the box is, but it was listed at around $65. So value, aftermarket value isn't too bad, but for something that's 15 years old, you would think it might be worth a little bit more, but it's definitely better than having the aftermarket at the same as the original suggested retail price value. So again, statues are made out of PVC, so it is pretty sturdy overall. And that's why I give the value score that's slightly above average, 6 out of 10. Final category is overall, which basically accumulates the 5 prior categories: design, sculpting, colors, packaging, and value. So for me, I do like this a lot. When I bought this, I intended to keep her with the other figure in the same line, which is fighting Chun-Li. But unfortunately, without space and some financial issues, I do need to try to make some room as well. So I have decided to sell this. Hopefully it goes to a nice new owner that's able to enjoy it or appreciate it more than I can. As far as the box condition goes, just because I do tend to care about that, no major dents or anything like that, as you can see, but there are some scuffing here and there, and of course that is part of the design score why I gave it a 9 out of 10 rather than a perfect 10, because the design of the package would be a perfect 10, but due to just the way the plastic can be dented and creased, or a lot of the scuffing, if this had a gloss finish, would have been able to protect a lot of the scuffing as well. But other than that, the box is very, sturdy, nice, decent thickness to the cardboard. And again, Cammy overall looks great. Pose, the proportions, the overall look. My only complaint again would be the way her face or cheeks are so round, and especially the round open mouth just kind of gives it that hate to say, like Cabbage Patch, or Cabbage Patch Kids, where it just has that really round big cheeks. I mean, that's exaggerated compared to this Cammy here, but just kind of reminds me of that look, just the way her mouth is a bit open like that. So would have liked it if the sculptor or designer had a different expression maybe. Anyway, that is something you'd have to look closely at, because even at a decent distance, she doesn't look too bad. And also, as you can see, due to her dynamic pose, you could kind of display this in different angles as well. Like I said, I really love the way they made her legs glossy to kind of give that shiny pantyhose look. So that definitely stands out. So that's why I give the overall score a 7 out of 10. So to recap: design, 9 out of 10. Sculpting, 8 out of 10. Colors, 7 out of 10. Packaging, 9 out of 10. Value, 6 out of 10. And overall, 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Until next time, continue reading the King James Version Bible and eat your vitamin C's daily.